Welcome to the Football Garbage Time NFL podcast. My name is Wong, and I'm the editor-in-chief of Football Garbage Time. And with me is the OG co-host, Ryan Whitfield. Hey, Ryan. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well. Ready for week 2. Ready for a good one tonight. That's for sure.
Yeah, I am. I'm actually really excited about the Thursday night game. The primetime games have been pretty good, aside from the result of the Monday Night Football game, which I did not enjoy at all. You can't win 3 quarters and lose the 4th quarter, but I'm not going to dwell on that. Everybody knows that I drink all the Kool-Aid at the beginning, and then I just get disappointment all the way through the regular season. But I'm going to ask you a little bit about your Patriots too when we get to the games and the takeaways from week 1. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the pre-show, and this just popped up, and everybody's just like, I guess, got to get your thoughts on this. You've watched Home Alone, the movie with Macaulay Culkin. And it just kind of popped up. I've been talking to people about this. Everyone's trying to figure out, and I'm trying to figure out, what exactly did his parents do? Because they had the most astronomical house ever, and they flew 10 people to Paris, and they could fly, they're always taking these extravagant vacations. I have no idea what they do. I'm thinking they either smuggled drugs or they ran a Ponzi scheme or something like that. And I would think that'd be a fascinating Home Alone 5. We just kind of did a deep dive, true crime type thing, figure out exactly what they did. Do you have any thoughts on what the parents did? I mean, it just seems insane to me.
Yeah, they existed at a time when secondary education wasn't privatized and maxed out to the nth degree, where you could come out of secondary education and land a job that would buy you a house and afford you vacations right off the bat, and where a government who wasn't $1 trillion in debt wasn't assigning you credit scores. So that's one. But two,
that was way better answer than I thought I was going to get from you, Ryan. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
As I said once, or a line that I came up with once, and I've kind of just rolled with since that. And this is going back to when I first got out of school in the mid 2010s. But degrees had never been more expensive and never more useless or worthless.
Yeah, right.
And I'm not an anti-college person. I'm just the monetization of that whole industry.
Right.
But I digress. I did look it up when you were talking to me in the pre-show here.
Good.
And
actual
there's
facts.
a USA Today article that claims that there's apparently hints throughout the movie that the mom was actually a high-end fashion designer and quite a successful one, which would make sense why they're going to places like Paris and stuff like that. So I only read the headline, so I can't give you what those instances where they hinted at it were. But apparently that was the gist of the article.
We give you so much information on this podcast, and it's not all useless. I love that. I mean, we are giving some really good information right there. But we are going to turn to football right now, and we're going to talk about our takeaways from week 1. We're going to talk about the games we want to watch to week 2, but we're going to start off with some power rankings because things definitely changed. We're going to hit the air horn and get the show started. Ryan, why don't you give us your power rankings first, 1 to 5. How have they changed? What do you got here?
Yeah, so I'd call it seismic movement from what we had last week, which is not typical coming out of week 1. So
right.
I'll go for 1 to 5 here, but I have a team who I said I thought their window had kind of passed them by last week. The Bills have moved up to number 1 for me. I got the Eagles at 2. And we can dive into that because I'm sure you and others might be wondering why I have the Bills over the Eagles, but I got that's how I got it. Bills 1, Eagles 2. I got the Ravens still at 3. And then I have the Packers at 4. And then I have the Commanders at 5. So that is my top 5 right now.
Yeah. And you know what? Mine is so similar. I actually have the same top 3 that you do, Bills, Eagles, and Ravens. I do have the Packers at 5 and the Commanders at 4. I have them swapped, but it's awfully close. And Green Bay, I mean, I don't know if there was more problems in Detroit or that Green Bay is just so on fire right now that they can do no wrong, but there was some discrepancy there, and I wasn't sure what to assign that to. So Green Bay definitely sneaks into my top 5 at number 5. But what makes you feel that they've made their ways ahead of the Commanders?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we talked about it last week that when it comes to the Packers, that I think their entire offense from Jordan Love on down is a boom or bust situation. So
Right.
like when the deep ball's working, they're moving. I think their defense is solid. In general, I think Matt Rule. Well, sorry, I was just writing an article in Nebraska a few minutes ago.
Right.
Matt LaFleur is in the regular season at least a really good coach. They have a bunch of talent, dynamic. There's kind of a high floor there for them, but they are kind of a peak and valley team. And so when you do power rankings, I'm not saying these are the five best, the five favorites, in order to win. I'm saying coming out of week one in this moment, in this snapshot, I don't think it would be crazy if Washington goes in there and blows out Green Bay tonight. I think that is very much on the table because Green Bay kind of goes belly up out of nowhere in the Jordan Love era. So, but for 1 week, they were dialed in. I do think it's probably more about Detroit in terms of like how bad it looked versus that. And by Detroit, I mean very specifically. Well, there's two narratives. One, this is publicized a lot on Twitter. I'm sure you saw the stat this week that Goff has had 5 offensive coordinators in his career, and when it's not McVay or
Ben Johnson,
I think the stat was 19-1 in his career started under the other 3. So I think there's that part. But also, don't forget, Dan Campbell, this is not his first time being a head coach. And his first time, and I like Dan Campbell, but I'm just going on the data, was not a successful tenure in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had 2 really good coordinators, and they both leave. There's going to be an adjustment period. And I think ultimately Detroit's still going to be a good team this year. But I do think that especially early in this year, we're going to see a dip. So I think some of that kind of benefited Green Bay. But if I'm just going apples to apples right now, Green Bay beat Detroit, who's an NFC favorite, who we all had in our top 5 last week.
Very true.
Handled business, but it was the Giants. So I can't, as it stands right now this week, Green Bay is going to be above Washington.
Yeah, and I did think that, it's an awfully close call, and Thursday Night Football will be very, very enlightening for me to see exactly whether Green Bay can keep it up and whether Washington can work out some of the kinks. They did have 12 penalties in that game against the Giants, including an intentional grounding, I believe, on the 4-yard line. Really, really poor decision-making there. But Jaden Daniels otherwise checked all the boxes as we thought he would coming into this season. And their ground game, which was much maligned after getting rid of Brian Robinson, actually looked pretty good with Deebo Samuel and Jacare Cross-Kid-Merritt, 220 rushing yards in that game. So, hey, listen, I don't know the answer if the Green Bay is going to be more consistent or if Detroit was just falling apart there. I absolutely agree that the Giants were not really competitive in terms of being what they put on the field there, and Russell Wilson should not be playing any more football for NFL teams. So who knows what's going to happen, but that's an awfully close call. But I think we all can agree on the top that Bills and Ravens game was just insanity, like absolute insanity, and really a great show of offense. But where was the defense? 2 teams that are known for defense. What do you think? Was this just a product of having just high-powered offenses on the opposite side of the field, or was the defense off for those 2 teams?
Yeah, I think, we talk about game scripts, right? Like sometimes the game script once it gets rolling, it kind of rolls. So, I'm not going to make too much of a shootout because sometimes you get a shootout and it just is what it is. And that's what this game turned out to be. So I'm not making grand decisions on either team's defense because of the way that game went. My big extractions out of this game were one that as I texted several people after that game, Mahomes, they continue to try to add talent around. Sorry, I got a yellow jacket flying around my kitchen right now.
Well, don't get bit. Don't get stung, man.
Lamar, they continue to add talent around. Whereas Josh Allen has had for the last 3 or 4 years the talent be reduced, and one guy keeps beating the other. And I, the way that game fell apart too. We've done a lot of talking about Lamar and his playoff struggles, which have been fair. But we've got to start to look at Harbaugh too. Harbaugh gets a lot of passes as a guy, for myself included, as like one of the better coaches in the NFL. But I mean, we're entering territory where he's been doing this for 15 years and he's got one ring, or 15 plus years, and he's got one ring. That's a long time to be knocking at the door and only really break through the one time. So
totally agree. Yep.
There's equal blame on both sides there. From decisions to snap the ball with, 15 plus seconds left on the play clock as you're trying to bleed out a game with 4 minutes to go, up 2 scores. Then to poetically fumble because you weren't wasting enough of the clock. There's just so many breakdowns there. I mean, I came away from week 1 saying that I think, let's leave the NFC aside because I think there's some other stuff going on in Philly. But like for AFC, it is not a question to me. The Baltimore, we said this last week, and I felt this through the ups of that game and the down of that game. The Ravens have the best roster in the AFC, and I don't think it's particularly close.
Yeah.
And yet there's still something wrong there. Still something they just can't get across that hump or figure out. This yellow jacket is all around me. But I'm under pressure right now.
I know. That's right. You work best under pressure. I know it.
But yeah, so they gotta solve that. And so, I walk away from that and saying, man, Josh Allen just keeps getting it done with just, fine weapons. I'm not Khalil Shakir. I'm not gonna, in Keon Coleman and
I didn't think they were dynamic until I saw them play. I'll tell you that. Keon Coleman totally turned the light on. That was crazy.
Yeah, but it's not, Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, and Devontae Smith, right? Like, so there's limits to this. Like, he's doing this with like an okay cast. So I think this game exposed all the big picture problems we know existed in Baltimore, but they still have the best roster in football. So I have a hard time dropping them more than 3, given how good I think that roster is. But
I agree.
They got to figure it out because this has to be the year they get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Too many false starts and no actual benefit at the end of the season. So let's go ahead and turn over to our next topic here because we're kind of rolling into it already. But give me your 2 takeaways for week 1.
Yeah. So my 2 takeaways. One, I mean, I think silently the thing we didn't just address there. I mean, we both took the Chiefs out of our top 5 from the preseason, and I don't think that was a one-off. I do think that there's a certain level of talent depletion that you can survive, and a certain level of like, okay, I mean, what is the Chiefs' plan here? And they've got to reinvest in this next offseason. This season's too late. They can do some trades to try to, they can try to add some talent as the season goes here, but like, they're not adding any marquee player at this point, most likely. Right. So that's my big takeaway there because, I think that's a game that they would have pulled out in seasons past, and they just didn't. And that's just not where they're at right now. So, that's probably one. And then outside of the stuff we just talked about, I guess I'll keep it to the Eagles. I think the AJ Brown situation is going to come to a head. Sometime this season. I don't think it's sustainable. Again, Albert Breer, who's a local guy here. I know he's a national media member, so I'm sure you all know him, but he's on a lot of local stuff here because he's from the area. But he's used this phrase, or no, actually, it's Chris Gasper from the Boston Globe. Sorry, excuse me, who uses this phrase a bunch. I've used it over the years because he used to talk about with the Patriots when there was all this internal fighting going on that most of you didn't know was happening. But I think it's all pretty public now how much Belichick, Kraft, and Brady all hate each other.
Yep.
But they kept it together because he would always say that winning is the ultimate deodorizer.
Yes.
And that thing was close to teetering last year, but they won. So then AJ Brown stays through the offseason. There wasn't any big trade demand requests or fulfilled or anything like that. But what happened the other night's not going to be sustainable. And I know there's been a bunch of advanced metrics have come out that show that his separation rate was basically 0 in the game.
Right.
And so it's really more on AJ Brown than anybody else. Tell AJ Brown that. I'm just telling you that situation, if that's what his role is going to be in that offense, he's going to be by week 6, hand up screaming to the media, I want out. And
we've seen that before.
I still don't think that even though that they won, that Sirianni is that kind of leader of men that's going to be able to keep all of that together. I think they got through and broke through last year. But I almost think they're going to have to do an addition by subtract. I almost think they should be exploring trade options for him right now. And that's not just as somebody who wants to see him lined up in a New England uniform. I think my own personal bias part of that out of it. Right. That is Nomar Garcia-Pera getting removed from the Red Sox in 2004 so they can go win a title. I'll stick to the Boston references here. Marcus Smart being removed 2 years ago so the Celtics go win a title. Sometimes you have to take on the field a plus because of what it's going to do to your locker room. So I look at that and say, and now I say that, and he'll get 15 targets and 13.
Right. And he'll break some single season record for a game production or something next week. You're like the.
But I think they got to be proactive on that because I think the Eagles are. I think, like I said, I think the Ravens are the best roster in the AFC. I think the Eagles have the best roster in football. And it's not particularly
absolutely.
Those two are separate for everybody, and I think they're so far ahead, and they have that clutch component of they can actually win. And I think Jalen Hurts is everything that the Lamar isn't. Like Jalen's less talented, but way more of a winner than Lamar has proven to be. So like they got a chance to repeat. So they need to make sure that situation doesn't fester and turn into what it was almost turning into last year.
Right. I agree. And speaking of Jalen Hurts, do you ever watch the show Abbott Elementary, Ryan?
That's I've watched a few episodes here and there, but not recently.
Well, there was an episode in which Jalen Hurts showed up, and he was so awesome in that episode. I used to be kind of like, listen, I respect the guy. I'm not really a big fan. But after seeing him in that show, he's pretty fantastic. I have to kind of root for him now. Go check it out sometime. He has a great part in that show. But that being said, my takeaways are more a little bit down the totem pole, and one of which is the Miami Dolphins. They're circling the drain. Mike McDaniel's little shtick is not working anymore. And if it ever worked before, I don't know. Tua was healthy. Tyreek Hill was there. Jalen Waddle was there. Devon Achane was there. The Dolphins did not show up. I mean, it was an absolute out-and-out disaster for them. They were shut out for most of the game. And, I don't know what was wrong because there's no excuse there. There's nothing to blame it on. In fact, the vibes were good in Miami about what the Dolphins are going to do this year. And the second takeaway is the other side of that, the Colts and Daniel Jones. I mean, what the heck just happened there? Daniel Jones, and he set it was actually a record. He actually he scored on every possession. The first quarterback to do that since it was recorded in 1991. They never actually followed the stats back past that, so you can't tell. But he scored on every single possession, the first quarterback to ever do that, which is insane. And part of it is because people generally take knees on that last possession. He didn't because he didn't have it, so maybe it was just a fluke. But 7 straight scoring drives for Daniel Jones against those Miami Dolphins. Are Miami Dolphins that bad, or are the Colts that good, or what's going on here? I don't know. But I mean, if they can keep it up, Daniel Jones looks like he's on his way up, maybe in a Baker Mayfield type renaissance, whereas Tua, maybe his last year. What do you think?
Yeah, so in particular in that game, not a game I watched closely or a lot of, but what I'll say is about Miami, just going into it, like surface level stuff, like you mentioned, Tyreek's there, and
he didn't want to be there.
He wasn't good last year, and he's 31. Tyreek's probably not. How many speed receivers have a bad year at 30 and then come back at 31 and perform well? I mean, I'm sure somebody's done it before, but that's not exactly the typical character arc of a speedy receiver, right?
Yeah,
so,
right.
Or any receiver. I mean, that's old in receiver terms. 31 is old when you're a receiver. So I don't think. I think Miami's got personnel issues. I like Mike McDaniels. I do think his time is coming to an end in Miami. I think he'd benefit from going back to being coordinator for a couple of years and then come back when he's a little bit more seasoned and mature to do things differently. But I'm not a big McDaniels hater personally. But I just think they have roster issues. I mean, Jalen Waddle, to me, I'm trying to think of a good comp, but I can't. He's fine. He's not what the rest of that group was that he came out of Alabama with. So I think he's fine. He's not a real one. Your real one is now old. Achane is perpetually hurt. Another speed guy who just, is constantly kind of banged up. He had the hamstring, I think it was this offseason.
Yeah. Right.
So like, I don't even know if he's at full health. And I think Tua is a guy that like you need a lot of pieces around. So what I will tell you though is kind of two competing thoughts on what's going on there. Albert Breer, who I mentioned a few minutes ago,
Right.
was on a local show this week saying that he thinks that they've quietly entered a rebuild period where they've missed the window of Tua's rookie contract, and that's all kind of come to fruition. And now they got to kind of do like a retool on the fly, and that this era of Miami football window is closed. That was one. But then on the other side, Greg Bedard of the Boston Sports Journal, who used to be on the MMQB, Peter King's site. He's like more of a trenches kind of guy, really analyzes line play. And he said, watching it back, that it wasn't like Miami looked like a team that just doesn't have anything left. They got outplayed by a better team. And I do agree with this, that those poor Colts, man, since Andrew Luck retired, like they have had a good roster. They just can't find a quarterback to get it done. And so I don't know that
Daniel Jones.
I don't know that. I don't know.
I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I don't think it's sustainable. I think he had a nice game, but I think there's a lot of talent around him there. I think they have a good wide receiver.
Tyler Warren, the rookie tight end, like really impressed me, and it made me feel really not so great about the Bears taking Colston Loveland now after I saw what Tyler Warren was able to do in that game with Daniel Jones. I mean, he looked fantastic. He looked like a future. And I mean, hey, I don't want this overreaction theater, right? I'm overreacting to everything. But I think that Tyler Warren has potential to be one of the, top 5 to 10 tight ends in the league, sooner rather than later, just based on what I saw him being able to do with someone like Daniel Jones. And the Indianapolis defense deserves some credit. I mean, they forced turnovers on 3 of its first 4 series against Miami, and then they picked off Tua the first 2 times that the Dolphins got past the midfield. So they were all over them. I mean, that was impressive. I didn't really think about them as a defensive powerhouse before facing Miami. So maybe Miami's just that bad. I don't know. But they really were kicking in all cylinders, and hard to say in one game, but I'm starting to feel like the Colts are moving their way up and the Dolphins are circling the drain. So that game was very interesting to me from that perspective. And I won't go into anything else, but I will ask you really quickly how you felt your Patriots did in week 1.
Not good. I don't feel good about it at all. I think, I think there's going to have to be a change in philosophy. Again, not to overreact to week 1, but if you watch back, I mean, they have the handcuffs. McDaniel's offense is built on sideline to sideline, quick decisions, insane accuracy, non elongated plays. That's not who Drake May is.
Right.
And I know that him and Vrabel had both said all offseason that they wanted him to protect himself more, not run as much, not take as many hits. But what you saw was a guy as the pocket was collapsing who looked robotic. He looked like he was questioning when to run, when not to run. They gotta free him up. They do. Now on Drake's part, he's got to fix the mechanics. He's still making the same mistakes, and that's getting really frustrating to watch. I know he's less than a full season of games in. I use this analogy all the time when I was coaching or when I'm in my day job or whatever. I'm like, you guys should have seen me yelling at my 6-year-old, who's now 14, when he'd throw the ball at my feet 3 straight times. I'd say, I don't care if the next one's 15 feet over my head, but correct in the other direction and show me you understand. So
right.
If I'm yelling at my 6-year-old, 8 years ago, then I'm a little bit irritated at the 23-year-old who keeps sailing the ball over people's heads.
Yeah.
Dude, throw one at somebody's feet to show me you're trying to go the other direction. At some point, do the opposite of what you're doing. You can't just keep and what it is, and you can watch it in it, is like it's his body gets narrow, his legs are together, he's almost up, he's not on his tippy toes, but he looks like he is, and so his whole motion is high. And then he also has this hitch that he tried to work out last year where he pats the ball into the motion on every throw.
Yeah.
And those two things combined, I thought after a whole offseason that it would look a lot better than it did. They still should have won the game. A lot of little things that they just let slide, but blame pie for me is Josh McDaniels one. I don't think he's the right fit for this group. And for, again, his offense is archaic now.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's the right fit for Drake.
Yeah,
Drake's
and
number
I also,
two.
right, and I would actually put some blame on Will Campbell as well, real rookie left tackle. I mean, he did allow a strip sack, and he committed 2 false starts in the second half. I mean, those are things he probably will get better at. I mean, as time goes on, but I think there is some, you're only as good as your offensive line allows you to be, and left
I think
tackle is
Will was
about as
actually
important as
fine. Just to interject on that. I mean, his PFF grade was fine, especially in pass protection. Now, the 2 offsides or false starts are inexcusable, and he had a rough stretch there. I got into a back and forth with Dan Lifshatz, who we had on this podcast years ago, the betting guy here. He wants to put it fully on Will. I mean, I think it is on the strip sack, or it's on another pressure he let up. But either way, Ramondre comes up to chip off the edge right next to Will, and he just airmails it. I mean, with just no effort, he's upright. He kind of leans or whatever, and so like Will Campbell's still going to make that block. But but to me, it looked like he thought he had chip help and was trying to set to the inside, and then his running back just came up and airmailed it. So there was that. Also, the pressures from the left side are really coming primarily off stunts, and Jared Wilson, the rookie out of Georgia, who's playing left guard, who was a center, who had a nice start to camp, kind of pittered out at the end of the camp, and did not have a nice game. PFF I think was like a 53 out of this game. So it's like you got a starting left tackle who's being thrust in there game 1, who's got running backs not helping enough, and a left guard who's grading out as a 50. That makes it even more on his plate. So when you put all that into perspective, the fact he had like a 72 pass grade on PFF, like you can live with that. And maybe I'm more shocked because, or not shocked, but more my standards come down because the left tackle play has been so bad for the last 5 years.
right.
72.
Yeah, if you have trash for a long time, everything looks good.
That was, yeah. I mean, we've been having burnt cube steak, and all of a sudden, someone hands me a nice New York shoreline from Outback. I'm like,
that's right. Who cares if it's overdone? I'm all on board, and at least the cut's good. All right, let's get to our last topic because we're running a little short on time, and that is the week 2 games that we're looking forward to. Let's take Washington at Green Bay out of this entire thing because we all want to see that game. I know that. So, name me 2 other games that you're looking forward to in week 2.
Oh gosh, now I got to pivot, but
yeah, I knew that because we all had that. Washington Green Bay's on everybody's.
That's the easy one. All right, well then the other easy one that I was going to take out, I'll put back in. But Eagles Chiefs, obviously.
Yes,
I think it's a fascinating game because, I mean, if you look at it as an individual event, like the Eagles should mop the floor with the Chiefs, but Chiefs are going to start 0-2. That feels, even as much as I'm down on the Chiefs, that feels like a hard thing for me to wrap my head around. That Mahomes, Andy Reid, and crew are going to be 0-2. So I think that's a really sneaky, fascinating game because the Chiefs obviously are good enough to climb out of any hole, but we all know the stats. So you get to 0-2 or 1-3, you start talking about those kind of starts, it gets very hard to make the playoffs. So and I think the Chiefs are a huge step down from where they've been, but I don't think they're not a playoff team. But if they're 0-2, I got to start considering the possibility that they might be a 9-8 team that doesn't make the playoffs, which is insane. So I'll put that one up, there. And then the other one I had is partly because it's a team I don't get to see play very often, who has been on a downward trend for a year plus now, and a team that's really been a nice Cinderella story the last year plus, playing on Monday Night Football. I didn't watch any of the game last weekend, the 14-9 finish. I do not know what's wrong with CJ Stroud and this Houston Texans team. What happened that first season into what's gone on this next year plus now. But something's broke, and so having that situated Monday night 7 p.m. against Tampa, who again we all kind of thought was dead when Baker went there and Brady was gone, and they've had this nice resurgence and they've been a competitive relative playoff team. They had a nice game this last weekend. I think that's a really fascinating matchup on Monday night.
Yeah, I love that. And I'll throw in a couple extras that I'm looking at. And just so everyone knows, the Eagles are favored by 1.5 right now over the Chiefs in Arrowhead. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it's a coin flip, but in Arrowhead, usually they give them the benefit of the doubt. That will be fascinating to see. Tampa Bay at Houston. The Houston Texans are actually favored by 2.5 there, but that's basically a coin flip too because they're home. The other game that I'm really interested in is Jacksonville at Cincinnati, because the Jaguars are actually a little bit better than I thought they were going to be, and the Bengals are quite a bit worse than I thought they were going to be, at least on offense. I think we talked about how bad the Bengals defense is, but that offense was supposed to be clicking like nobody's business, and it did not click. And Jamar Chase was absent from that. And Joe Burrow didn't look great. So, I mean, this is going to be really interesting to me. If Jacksonville is on that upward swing with Travis Hunter and with a revitalized Travis Etienne, who had like 140 rushing yards last weekend. I don't know if it's just the matchup or the fact that they're actually better, but I'll be fascinated to see if Jacksonville can bring that in Cincinnati against a Bengals team that looks to be floundering a little bit, even though they lucked out into a win. The other game that I'm looking forward to is a little bit interesting, and that is going to be the Denver Broncos at the Indianapolis Colts, because the Broncos didn't look like the blowout awesome team that everyone thought they were going to be, and the Indianapolis Colts did look a lot better, way better than anybody thought they were going to be. So the Broncos at Colts, where the Broncos are actually favored by only 1.5, but they are at Indianapolis, will be a fascinating game for me to see if this was a one-off fluke for Daniel Jones and Tyler Warren and company, or if they are for real, and if and the Broncos will be a nice test for them there. All right, that brings us to the end of the show. Let's hit the air horn on the show. All right, Ryan, why don't you give us your social media so people can follow you?
Yeah, so you can follow me at Ryan Whitfield NE. For those watching on the video, you can see it right there. I will just say, because I had, for knockout pool purposes, I had a couple people reach out to me last week for advice, and every one of them couldn't understand why I wasn't picking the Bengals. I couldn't find quickly a stat for it or what it was last year, but as of like mid-September last year, Zach Taylor was 1-10 as the Cincinnati Bengals head coach in September. They always start slow. They are a bad September football team, and it's why last week against the Browns or not was a bad knockout pick. They did win, but by a point. So
yeah, and
anyways,
because the Browns let them lose,
do not start betting on the Bengals till October. Stay the hell away from them. Speaking of betting, I would be remiss before you sign off here, just pointing out to everybody that I went 14-2 in our pick'em pool last week. So,
yes. Hey, listen, even a broken clock is right 2 times a day, right? So we'll see what happens.
How about 14 times out of 16 in a day?
All right. You can follow me at FB Garbage Time on Twitter/X or on Blue Sky. You can find me at the Football Garbage Time site on Facebook. As usual, thank you for coming out and wasting time with us. Until next time, enjoy your NFL week.